Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Okay, I think I finally got my head around it all regarding the tax credit and how the legacy companies were going to have a chance over Tesla. Well, obviously they never were, and they were never going to succeed in electric autos, but they managed to find a way to make a fortune still before the ship goes down. On the tax credit bill, they're going to include PHEV, or plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. This is a travesty. It doesn't even save jobs. It just kicks the can up the road. A road that will now have fewer BEVs, battery electric vehicles. In fact, Legacy will end up hiring even more people to take advantage of this opportunity who will lose their jobs eventually, as Legacy Autos will want to grow this PHEV business as fast as they can. All they need to do is place a small battery in their ICE cars and allow it to plug in to charge, and then any customers who purchase these cars will get a $12,500 tax refund. Legacy Autos have yet to show any signs of mass-produced EV. In fact, no one has except Tesla. Well, according to Elon, manufacturing is hard. But anything is hard when you put your heart and soul into it. What Elon really means is manufacturing is important. He was going to work hard on whatever it was. In case you couldn't tell, $12,500 is an absolutely insane tax credit, and the total bill could end up being in excess of $100 billion. That's what the taxpayers in the US have to pay. Well, them and the rest of the world, as the rest of the world also picks up some of the bill when the US print money, as it reduces the purchasing power of any foreign debt. Now, Legacy Autos are still going to be massively battery constrained. Tesla is too, of course. But Tesla have been doing what they can to sort out their battery supply for a lot longer. Tesla have also been able to use other battery suppliers whilst they invested a sufficient amount of money and time into R&D for their own batteries. Yes, other manufacturers are also able to source batteries from other suppliers, but as Tesla is the biggest battery consumer on the planet, they like to get some priority over the others. And on top of that, every battery is of more value to Tesla than the Legacy Autos, due to the fact that the Legacy Autos don't make profit on their EVs. And Tesla has spent all these resources on designing a battery that can be manufactured super quick at low cost. What this means is that Tesla can produce a lot more EVs at a much faster rate. This tax credit works on a first-come, first-served basis. Whomever can sell the most EVs over that time will get to take most of the credit until it's exhausted. Even in a few years' time, most Legacy Autos are really going to struggle to get much more than about 50 gigawatt hours a year of battery supply. GM is planning on having 70 gigawatt hours once their second battery factory is complete, and it would seem GM invested more than any of the other incumbent autos, and they have their Ultium battery platform. If GM used an average of 70 kilowatt hours per vehicle, then that would be enough batteries for 1 million EVs a year. But by this stage, we might expect Tesla to be at around 8 million vehicles a year globally. Just a side note, I also find it highly unlikely that GM will reach 1 million a year by their target date of 2025, but let's go with that anyway. So by the time 2025 is over, well, Tesla should have already produced 5 million more EVs in the US, possibly more. But either way, the point I'm trying to make is that Tesla would have benefited from the lion's share of the EV tax credit. Of course, Legacy Autos are well aware of this. They know they can't compete with Tesla with BEVs. But they still have a few cards up their sleeves, one big ace being the government, and it looks like they have convinced them to also include PHEVs in the bill too. PHEVs are the worst of both worlds, all the disadvantages of ICE, with about none of the benefits of electric. You're essentially now driving an ICE car carrying a battery and two drivetrains. But to classify as a PHEV, you only need a 4 kilowatt hour battery, I believe. Now, if I was an executive at Ford, and didn't care about the future we leave for our children, although those two things might be mutually inclusive, well, one 70 kilowatt hour battery can make one BEV, but that same battery can be used for perhaps 15 PHEVs. If PHEVs have this huge tax incentive, then demand will increase significantly. So they're likely going to make as many of their vehicles as they can with a plug-in hybrid. In fact, this actually disincentivizes them to make BEVs in the first place, which is outrageous. Now, as we know, most of the executives in these companies just need to prop up the stock price during their career. Then they have their golden parachutes. After that, it makes little difference than what happens in the company. Well, this tax credit will allow them to increase their profits dramatically. They likely wouldn't even bother designing new cars especially for it, but would simply make changes to their existing models and throw in a plug-in battery. It's also much easier than making an all-electric vehicle. Tesla customers will likely get a $10,000 tax credit when purchasing a new Tesla too. But the demand on that will be insane, and likely consumers aren't willing to wait around for probably 1 to 2 years for a Tesla, when there's already a much cheaper hybrid available. Legacy Autos were never going to beat Tesla, or have a chance in the EV field, but that doesn't mean they can't find some loopholes to profit massively from the government before they go under. They get one massive payday before it all implodes and they go bankrupt. I can't see how this incentivizes legacy autos to make EVs over PHEVs, unless maybe legacy truly do believe they have a chance to transition to EVs. Now, this is more game theory, and Elon Musk is who they're playing against. As some of you know, I have theories that Elon has been sandbagging this company. Some people wonder why. Well, what's the point of telling the world how big and successful you're going to be, particularly if you aren't hired in the company solely to keep the stock price up, but instead have a long-term vision on the company and want to avoid potential threats? This reminds me of the classic Sun Tzu saying, "Appear weak when you're strong, and strong when you are weak." Well, it is possible that Tesla could end up manufacturing a lot more cars than we think. For starters, it looks like the Texas facility has a significantly larger capacity than even Berlin. And maybe by the time this bill gets passed, or a year or so later, Tesla is able to make a serious quantity of EVs. If a Model Y standard range is only about mid to low $30,000 after the tax credit, then that will be highly more coveted than a Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. Elon tends to think several steps ahead of everyone. I would be surprised if he is not ahead here too. Of course, they added the unions in for the extra $2,500 which Tesla will not benefit from either, but at the end of the day, it's just sad that these companies are just stealing money from taxpayers, and it's highly possible that very little of it will actually be used to subsidize the legacy autos transitioning to electric. I don't think the tax credit would have made any difference to Tesla's growth either way. They're self-funding all their growth and growing at the fastest rate they can and not constrained by capital. The demand for their vehicles might be so high that Tesla may increase their prices a bit too. This will obviously give them more profit per car sold, but that extra profit won't really make much difference to Tesla's growth. Tesla is more limited by engineers to build production lines. Anyway, I guess we'll see how it all plays out, but it looks like it's just one big money grab from the legacy companies, as they know their days are numbered. It sure will be great when we finally get rid of them, so we can embrace an electrified future. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.